Hi everyone, Marco here for a 44th and brand new episode of our special edition Lore of the Universal Century. Today, we're going to the 1 Year War era in an attempt to answer a particular question, which is... Yep, in this video, we're going to explore all the variants of the Gaw-class attack carrier, how much they differ from the regular model, when did they appear, and extract every bit of mechanical knowledge we have of them so far. But let's start by the beginning. What is exactly the Gaw-class? A limited production attack carrier developed by the Principality of Zeon, the Gaw was a large type of atmospheric megaplane, serving as the largest and most powerful asset deployed by the air branch of the Zeon Earth Attack Force. Designed in the early days of the 1 Year War, as the need for an adequate aircraft force started becoming crucial for the Zeon's invasion of Earth, the Gaw was created as a sort of grotesque air dweller, capable of carrying different roles by itself to support the Earth Attack Force. Firstly, the Gaw was primarily designed as a flying aircraft carrier, built around the capacity to transport, resupply, and launch an entire fleet of smaller airplanes while remaining on the move in a mostly federal-controlled, planetary-wide airspace. As a result, the Gaw was a gigantesque asset size-wise, spanning over 147.4 meters of length for a total wingspan of 159.4 meters. Dimensions that dwarf any type of aircraft designed on both sides, but also even Garuda-class land battleships also fielded by the Earth Attack Force. This large size enabled the Gaw to accommodate an enormous internal hangar, which could open through a front hatch type door or a twin trap located in the rear. This large hangar was enough to transport a total of 8 Gaw-class fighters, 4 placed in each of the segments near the wings, alongside a single Ugaw-class reconnaissance aircraft stored and launched from its own subcompartment of the hangar. These Gaws, integral part of the Gaw-based air fleet, could be deployed in combat through the 2 side opening hatches connected to the main hangar, and which installed a short launching ramp to enable the Gaws to take off. With this launch system, the Gaw could quickly launch its Gaw escorts in quick succession while already in the air, without having to open the front or rear launch doors, which would leave it vulnerable. In parallel, the front or rear doors had another use for the Gaw, enabling it to deploy on the front line what was called a blockade team, a squad of 3 mobile suits, usually Zaku ground types or goofs. Now, the Gaw wasn't just created to simply serve as a flying aircraft carrier capable of sometimes dropping mobile suits, being also conceptualized as a large type of transport bomber. On its belly, the Gaw mounted a high-capacity type bomb bay, enabling it to carry and drop large numbers of explosives on fortified ground targets, carpet bombing large portions of land, a feature that was essentially used to reduce most of the North American region into smoking rumbles. To complement this role, the Gaw could also be retrofitted to launch large air-to-ground missiles, being able to use the rams meant to launch the Gaws to instead fire these weapons, likely in the case it needed large bunker busters. Ice on the cake, the Gaw had a third but nonetheless important role, being designed to boast an impressive amount of firepower as a sort of atmospheric capital ship. Indeed, the Gaw mounted off each of its wings a double megaparticle cannon, similar in form and output to the one used in the Pegasus class. These 2 retractable weapons could cover less than 110 degrees of firing angle, but were supported by a third weapon that wasn't as much restricted. On the top of its main fuselage, the Gaw mounted a third double cannon of the same type, also retractable, but this time capable of rotating by 360 degrees, protecting the Gaw from all angles. If this wasn't already overkill, the Gaw was also seemingly equipped with a total of 10 physical cannons, hinted to be railguns, with 5 of them mounted in each wings over the double megaparticle cannons.
Last time I say ice on the cake, I promise.
But the Gaw was also fairly well protected, mounting an unknown amount of anti-air turrets disseminated across its hull and seemingly retractable as well. With all this stuff mentioned, one could think that the Gaw was a very interesting design and a powerful asset in the Zeon Earth Attack Force hands. Unfortunately, this was not really the case with the Gaw, through the fact it had been designed in the colonies through simulation alone, proving to be a vehicle ridden with design-related issues and an excessive number of flaws. Firstly, the Gaw, because of its size and weight, was equipped with a total of 18 thermonuclear jet engines, a propulsion system that was supposed to grant it near unlimited flying range and a max speed of Mach 4, but was found to be completely unable to support the sluggish design, severely reducing its cruising range alongside grounding its speed to merely Mach 1. Worse, these completely overworked engines had to be coupled with additional fuel-consuming engines to support all the weight, which ended up producing a very signature and loud noise that would always blow the cover of the mega plane. Secondly, the Gaw was also badly designed when it came to its structural form, with its ability to change directions being entirely dependent of its vertical tail unit, which means that if this tail unit was destroyed or malfunctioned, the entire attack carrier was essentially unable to change course. If this wasn't enough, the deployment of the blockade mobile suit team through the front trapdoor forced the Gaw to descend and considerably slow down, at less than 100 km per hour, making it a large and slow-moving easy target for both the Federation air and ground forces. All these things combined made the Gaw a reliable and yet extremely shaky vehicle at the same time, a powerful asset when surrounded by a fleet of DOPs, near untouchable and requiring an entire air fleet to even hope to shoot down, but a vulnerable and ridiculous giant pigeon when fielded on its own, a situation the overstretched Principality could not always avoid, notably when they had to recover Commercialized capsules at all costs. Nonetheless, the Gaw would also serve for the entirety of the 1-year war and afterward, with some units being fielded by the Zeon remnants as late as UC-96. Despite its flaws and vulnerabilities, the mega plane would also be used by the paramilitary world, with some PMC operating on Earth, like Themis, using it as a giant carrier as late as UC-90. Finally, the Gaw was also likely the main inspiration of the future Garuda class later developed by the Federation, proving that the concept of megaplanes as massive monster ships was not conceptually flawed, just needing to be refined a bit more. But that's enough setting for today, let's get to yet another piece of setting. Before we start covering fully fledged variants of the Gaw class, there is something we have to talk about for a bit. As we said before, the Gaw class was a mega plane that was seemingly produced as part of a limited production run, with a large but limited number of units being manufactured and deployed during the war. Now, something that isn't much talked is that the Gaw is a vehicle with a very weird lore, with the original design being detailed with very different specs and dimensions depending on the work in which it is presented. Indeed, the Gaw was, and is still to this day, detailed as being 147.4 meters in length for a total wingspan of 159.4 meters, which contradict other sources which instead place its size around 62 meters for 50 meters or even sometimes 50 meters for 50 meters. Size differences put aside, multiple variations of the Gaw have started to be shown across the years under the guise of being regular Gaws, with minor design differences setting each others apart. Among them, one can remember the green painted ones seen in Mobile Suit Igloo, which, size-wise, would be smaller than the purple ones seen in Mobile Suit Gundam. Other than that, one may remember the Gaw seen in the 8th Mobile Suit team, which seemed to mount different types of double megaparticle cannons and not exactly at the same place than the original. Final straw, another design of the Gaw, shown in the Gundam Manual Detailed Schematics collection of 1981, seems to lack the 10 railguns of the original design, instead featuring 2 additional double cannons, bringing the numbers to 5. This depiction is supported by some renderings of the SD games, which shows that the Gaw can also place double megaparticle cannons on the launch ramps, and seem to suggest these can be retracted inside the side hatch later on and be stored through an elevator system. If this wasn't enough, not all Gaw seems to be equipped with the wings rail cannons, with the very first Gaw design shown in the Mobile Suit Gundam TV series, heavily implying those holes to be observation glass doors rather than cannons. This disparity between each unit has often been dismissed as retcons for retcons or just lazy writing, but according to Japanese sources, there may be a very plausible explanation justifying the mess. According to this, the Gaw was, much like the Magella attack tank, a machine that wasn't rolled out with a fixed unified design, with the megaplane being produced in various sites on Earth and reproduced not exactly faithfully, depending on the production site. The Gaw seen in the 8th Mobile Suit team would be a twisted variation produced in the European front, and should, as such, be considered as a sort of Gaw European front production. The one with the additional mega particle cannons would be a sort of updated late production type variant from another production site, while the green and smaller one seen in Igloo would instead be a sort of descaled version, probably as an attempt to fix some of the flaws originally seen in the Gaw. You get it, the Gaw is more of a ragtag family of minor variants rather than a group of identical ships, and yet some real variations have been created across the years. Without losing any time, let's dig this out. A first variant I want to talk about, and one in this case atrociously obscure, is a Gaw variant introduced in no other than the manga Pillow Talk Nighthawks, one of the many one-year war side stories, and another stuff from Cyber Comics. In this weird one-year war story introducing the first transformable flying mobile suit of the Federation, the G-Dummy and its pilot, Shamin Brown, casually the grandson of General Revel, a variation of the Gaw was bound to appear, which it did in the earliest part of the story. Meet the Ugaw-gaw or Gaw-gaw by some, a very weird and rather bizarre variation to the purple mega plane, and a very short-lived one as well. The Ugaw-gaw is described as being a larger version of the Gaw-class, nearly identical in terms of outer form, but with bigger dimensions, although the upscaling is totally unknown. Weaponry-wise, the Ugaw-gaw is also sadly a mystery, as it never had the chance to show off its arsenal, as we will explain later on. Now, transport-wise, we have a bit more info about this plane, as it is shown carrying a fleet of Doppuri, also called Doppres, which seem to be Dop variations with a more jet-like streamlined silhouette, which is likely a model that improved the otherwise rather shitty fighter design of the original Dop. In terms of deployment history, we know that the Ugaw-gaw alongside its Doppres would respond to leaked intel that the White Base Corps was resting in Belfast and would, by pure chance, discover the new fighter bomber of the Federation, believing it to be the G-Armor, while it was actually only the G-Dummy in its mobile armor form, and who was performing an airlift mission at the time. Lacking any kind of live weapons, the G-Dummy would run away from the Ugaw-gaw and the Doppres, being able to reach his destination, the Weldea of the Nighthawks unit, only to be denied entry by the commanding officer and forbidden to land unless he took care of the Ugaw-gaw beforehand. Shamin would then transform the G-Dummy into its Gundam mobile suit form, and using the panic it caused to the Ugaw-gaw crew, would slash the main cockpit with its only weapon, a large beam saber, sending the Ugaw-gaws to the ground in flame. Aside that, not much else is known about this megaplane. Let's move to another variant. Time to cover another very mysterious Gaw, one that even Japanese sources don't mention as an official variant, yet one that deserves too. I call forward the Gaw Revival of Zeon version. Yeah, I'm already hearing some of you coming.
Actually, this isn't a Gaw variant, it is just Kazusa Kondo redrawing of the big fat plane with his original and unique art style.
Well, sorry for you, this is plainly not the case, with this unique plane coming from the manga Revival of Zeon of 1988, the same year of side operation of the Zeon UC-92. Side operation of the Zeon is also illustrated by Kondo and features not one, but a bunch of regular Gaws, with, yes, Kondo art style, but which are definitely different from the ones seen in Revival of Zeon, showing that Kondo has known all along how to draw a regular Gaw. This being said, let's move to the analysis of that thing we are going to refer as the Gaw Revived. The Gaw Revived is different from the regular Gaw through two main particular features. First, the cover piece that normally protects the rotating top double mega particle cannon has been massively enlarged with a globular protrusion, giving it a sort of beluga look. This piece seems to be able to open in the middle and is either a sort of transport bay or another opening for the mobile suit in the hangar to depart. The second difference comes in the form of a different wings loadout, with the 10 railguns and the 2 double mega particle cannons being seemingly removed in favor of additional large air intakes, a feature that is also similar to design aspects present in the Garuda class. Aside this, the Gaw Revived also equips an additional pair of rear engines, bringing a total of 6 engine blocks against the 4 of the regular Gaw and the 10 of the Garuda. Still, when it comes to its weapons, the Gaw Revived seems to retain the anti-air defenses of its predecessor, confirming the turrets to be double-barreled versions, while also introducing 10 weird ports near the nose fuselage. Although these could be missile launchers, they are also of the same form than the rail cannons ports of the original design, which could mean they are simply swapped from the wings to the nose instead of being totally removed. Internally, the main hangar of the Gaw Revived seems to have been enlarged and modernized, being seemingly equipped with mobile suit-sized catapults and holding enough space to transport a pair of Sturmjägers, mobile armors which are roughly of the same size than their parent armor the Gaw-plant. Now about that same deployment history. In UC-92, during the events of Revival of Zeon, this Gaw was still in activity as the mobile base of the Neo-Zeon Brewster team, being notably the mothership of Ace Pilot Mayer, aka the Witch of Sirius. The Gaw Revived would be used to recover in extremis Neo-Zeon soldiers, who would barely escape being shot down by a hyper beam cannon thanks to the sacrifice of the ZO2 of Frederick Brown. Aside this, not much else is to say about the Gaw Revived since we have zero clues about its origins or the reason behind its modifications. Considering the similarities between this Gaw and the Garuda, and the fact it was fully equipped with Axis Zeon models by UC-92, a plausible theory would be to say that this Gaw was something manufactured by Axis during the first Neo-Zeon War, and which was handed over to the remnants of their own ground forces. Considering Axis seemed to be interested in the Garuda design as seen in Double Zeta, it's possible this Gaw Revived was created to fill a sort of similar role, but like how the capsule got overshadowed by the Zaku Mariner, eventually fell in disfavor of the Earth Federation designed Garuda, which was likely more performing and well cheaper to acquire. Enough speculations, let's move to a real successor. The Gaw was always a controversial vehicle, and as such, one could have thought that its concept would be abandoned or at least recycled drastically, as seen with the Garuda. Yet, the Gaw series was far from being over after the 1-year war, with the side that had fought the Gaw-class, the Earth Federation Air Force, finding some merits to the purple megaplane. I'm thus presenting you their own new addition to the Gaw line, the Federation-produced megaplane known as the Gaw Kai. A large transport atmospheric plane serving as the direct successor to the Gaw-class attack carrier, the Gaw Kai was a design that closely followed the baselines of its parent ship, while adopting more angular and blockish segmentations closer to the other Federation-produced megaplane model, the Garuda class. Like the original Gaw, the Gaw Kai retains the use of a massive internal hangar, connecting to the exterior through a rear trapdoor and 2 side hatches, but phasing out the frontal door to instead adopt a different deployment system. Indeed, the Gaw Kai makes use of a vertical mobile suit-sized elevator, enabling mobile suit to quickly move from the hangar to the top fuselage of the plane, likely to serve as additional mobile suit turrets. Weaponry-wise, not much is known about the Gaw Kai, with some sources suggesting it retains at least the double megaparticle cannons of its predecessor, or at least similar weapons which would be located under 4 shutters seen on the upper fuselage. However, the presence of the elevator, which suggests the idea of using mobile suits as turrets on the top, coupled with the Garuda lack of beam cannons, would also indicate the Gaw Kai was actually unarmed, which would befit it since it is now treated as a transport ship more akin to the Medea class. In terms of deployment history, the Gaw Kai is, however, a bit more interesting. In December UC-87, a Gaw Kai belonging to the Earth Federation Rescue Corps would be redirected by Amuro Ray to recover the Brick siblings, civilians forced to rush atmospheric re-entry to flee a space battle between the Ayuk and the Titans. In the same period, another Gaw Kai, the Alsbarena, would be captured by the anti-Titans organization Keranos during one of its transport missions, later being retrofitted by the organization and fielded back to fight the Titans, now outfitted with its own new crew of gun cannon detectors, Nemos and Wagtail Ilex. Enough about the Gaw Kai, let's move to the one you are all waiting for. Sorry guys, I know the thumbnail was a clickbait and you were all expecting the Garuda class, and to be honest, I was planning to cover it as well at first. However, the appearance of two different factors have changed the tide of this video, and I'm going to swiftly explain why. First of all, I was actually able to find some underground subvariants for the Garuda, which means it isn't exactly a standalone megaplane as I always thought it was, which means I will be able to do a full breakdown video of it in the future, then address these variants. Secondly, well, the idea that the Garuda is a Gaw variant or daughter ship is actually misguided. Sure, it is heavily implied in multiple sources that the Garuda recycle or at least inherit the design concept of the one-year war Gaw, and was possibly developed with it as a main reference. But the idea of the Garuda being designed directly from the Gaw is false and seems to be actually fabricated stuff. I literally scoured Japanese sources for an entire week and I never saw it being stated properly anywhere that the Garuda was directly related to the Gaw. Worse, I also found sources claiming that the Garuda was a concept tracing back as early as UC-75, far before the Gaw, and which wasn't completed and commissioned until UC-82. So no Garuda today. Before we end this video, I would like to shortly address the alternative UC variations of the Gaw, the Origin and the Thunderbolt versions. The Origin version of the Gaw is not that different from the mainland continuity Gaw and is thus worthless to address. Yet, an interesting variation of it has been shown during the Origin retelling of the Battle of Jaburo. Indeed, a sort of mobile armored transport version of the Gaw makes an appearance, controlled by McCuve rival Rear Admiral Garcia Romeo, which introduces a large hangar in its middle section, capable of storing and dropping an ASDAM from the air. The Thunderbolt version is, however, far more different than its regular continuity counterpart, not only when it comes to its paint scheme, forms, but also armaments. The Thunderbolt Gaw is white instead of purple and adopts, I quote, a more heroic-like silhouette than its mainland continuity counterpart, alongside far larger rear thrusters. Its whole armaments have been renewed, with retractable missile launchers and a pair of double megaparticle cannons being placed on the top fuselage, double-barrel cannons being installed in the wings, and of course, single-barrel secondary cannons on the top of each side launch ramps. Finally, the hangar also seems to have been renewed and enlarged, with a VTOL landing pad having been also added behind the vertical tail unit. To buff it even more because it wouldn't be Thunderbolt otherwise, this version of the Gaw also seems to double its top launchers, with backward entries to each sub-hangars, which means this Gaw can deploy its air fleet from the front, but also at the same time from its rear. Time's out for alternative usage stuff. Let's end this video about this wholesome megaplane.
But who will survive?